This is a nation, and these are nicknames. Put them together and what have you got? Why, they're national nicknames, of course! 5 of them, in fact. Let's get started. We're starting off with a very famous one here, so famous that it's literally the name of a song that's attained cultural icon status in my country, and is the reason why nearly every movie set in Australia must have the phrase Down Under, or Down Under, in its title. There's nothing really complicated about this name. Australia is a land that also happens to be down under, with under referring to the south. Now, the keenly eyed and geographically knowledgeable of you might point out that there is no under when talking about the Earth, because it's a sphere suspended in space, where direction has no real meaning. To that I say, don't question it. If you really want to go deep, then I guess you could make the connection with Australia's original Latin name, Terra Australis, translating to Southland, and interpreting south to mean down or under. But that is an incredible stretch. Most likely, someone looked at the map, saw that Australia was at the bottom, and came up with the now famous nickname. For something a tad more complicated, let's jump over the Tasman Sea and find New Zealand, who are also known as... Before the Brits came along, New Zealand was inhabited by the Maori, descendants of the Polynesians, a group of people who lived around here, a place with a distinct lack of land and a distinct excess of water. Naturally, with all this water and not much else to do, the Polynesians got very good at sailing across oceans, so good in fact, that they got as far as Hawaii, Easter Island, and, most importantly for this video, New Zealand, which they called Aotearoa, or in English, the Long White Cloud. Now, depending on who you are, that may or may not have been a very interesting history lesson. But, there's just one pressing question. How did the Maori actually come up with such a name? In some traditional stories, Aotearoa was the name of the canoe used by the explorer Kupe, who we have absolutely no pictures of because 1. There were no cameras back then, 2. He was very protective of his privacy, and 3. He didn't actually exist. Another story says that Kupe's wife, Mrs. Name I can't pronounce, was watching the horizon and called out, "A cloud, a cloud." Yet another version claims that Kupe's ship was guided by a long white cloud in the course of a day, and a long bright cloud at night, which took him all the way to New Zealand. Unfortunately, this is a name from mythology, meaning that there's a very good chance that none of these stories are true. And, for all we know, the real reason behind the name could be because some Maori kid won a Name the Newly Discovered Island competition 800 years ago. Albania, home to many things, one of which is apparently eagles. No, not those guys, not that lot, not even them, but actual, real live eagles. Well, not really either, because the bird happens to be an endangered species in the country, but in folklore the creature was alive and well. As the story goes, a youth was hunting in the mountains when he came upon the nest of an eagle, and in that nest was a young eagle and a dead snake. But wait, the snake isn't dead, it's actually alive. For about 5 seconds, because the youth, who clearly graduated top of his snake killing class, spawn kills the snake and takes the eaglet back to his house. The youth is later confronted by the eagle, who offers him the sharpness of its eyes and the strength of its wings in return for the baby eagle. Which isn't exactly the most balanced of trade deals, but this is mythology, so don't question it. The youth accepts, and, due to these powers, is later made king of Albania, giving it the name, the Land of the Eagles. Also, random vexillology alert, there's also an eagle on Albania's flag. How's that for consistency? This is Afghanistan, who was taken on and successfully beaten, not 1, not 2, not 3, oh wait, it was 3, now defunct empires. We're not including the Persians, Greeks, Sikhs, Arabs, or Mongols in this number, since we have to draw the line somewhere, and the mid to late 1800s seem as good a place for said line to be drawn, become sentient, meet a nice girl, get married, settle down in a rapidly expanding neighborhood, have 2 kids named Amelia and Jackie, drive a slightly used Go Far, go on holiday once every 4 years, be a casual fan of whatever football code is popular in this country, give away his daughters, grow old with his wife, and pass away quietly in his sleep, never having achieved his dreams of being a famous musician who does a cappella covers of Vivaldi. We are, however, counting America in this number, although in the interests of global security, I do hope to be proven partially wrong. Although it is unknown who actually coined the phrase, there is no denying that Afghanistan itself is perhaps one of the worst countries to try to invade and occupy, with its mountainous terrain, severe winter, and a hostile clan-loyal populace having taken British, Russian, and, most recently, American scalps. Joe Biden would even use such a phrase after the fall of Kabul, as if that would soften the blow of a 20-year-long conflict, ending in defeat for the world's most powerful military. Now, it would be quite a stretch to claim that Afghanistan was the sole reason for the collapse of any of the aforementioned empires. It seems that only the Soviet Union decided to collapse immediately upon touching Afghani land, and even then, there were a bunch of other factors that I'm sure your history teacher tried to tell you while you were busy drawing cubes or trying to chat up Isabel Flores. But it is quite a nice David and Goliath story to tell, and if you ever do gain control of an entire expansionist nation, situation, you probably shouldn't invade Afghanistan just to be on the safe side. I know that such a scenario ranks around here in terms of likelihood, but if it ever does happen to you, try to pick on an easier country, like Vietnam. That doesn't seem too hard to beat. This was a bit of a hard one to pin down, because while no one is denying the fact that Macau makes a ludicrous amount of money from gambling, I'm not completely sure the Macanese have actually adopted this nickname the same way that, say, the Aussies did with the land down under. However, I also don't think there are many Graveyard of Empires t-shirts being sold in Kabul either, so this nickname is probably fair game. There's also a contentious issue as to whether or not Macau is actually a country, since while technically part of China, its citizens have different passports, the city accepts different currency, and the two places don't even drive on the same side of the road. Anyway, Macau is interesting, so I'm going to talk about it, damn it. So, this is Macau, a city with less people than Fiji, and a land area smaller than that of Norfolk Island. But with the miracle of legalized gambling, this tiny island happens to be pulling in $37 billion from what are literally just games of chance. Now, wouldn't that be a fine thing? In comparison, Vegas makes around $6 billion from gambling, which, according to the mathematicians working hard behind the scenes here at Minus Productions, is a much smaller number than 37. So, in summary, Macau's nickname comes about because the city is just Asian Vegas on steroids with some very nice Portuguese architecture. And, if you didn't know already, Asia is colloquially referred to as the East, even though, once again, sphere, suspended in space, direction has no real meaning. I would highly recommend visiting the city if you're ever in the mood to both lose your entire life savings and appreciate a unique blend of Asian and Southern European culture. It's a great time. Bring your girlfriend, bring your wife, bring your whole family. Don't worry, Mr. Brain. Neither have I. Hello, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, be sure to subscribe here and check out another video here. Till next time.